Welcome to this week's Q&A session. This is the Business Plan Academy for veterans and entrepreneurs. We'll be looking at the process, financials, and documentation. And for today, which is module 3, the first of the 2 sessions we have for module 3, we'll be dealing with URLs and official email addresses. My name is Dr. Kenny Ewulu, and I will be your coach for today. Having said that, I just want to give us a couple of minutes for those who are just joining us, but for those who are on Facebook Live, welcome. A few housekeeping items. If you have any questions, just go to the comment section of the Facebook page and just type in those questions. We'll try to get to you tonight, time permitting, but otherwise we'll review the questions, and if it's something that needs a little bit of research, we'll research that and get your answers to you by Thursday. Now, if Thursday is too far out for you because you need a quick turnaround on answers to your questions, just send an email to support@kdeleadership.com, and I'll be able to send your responses or your answers for you tonight or maybe tomorrow morning. Having said that, I know that what you're seeing now is just our module card. I'll go ahead and begin to respond to some of the questions that we have. The first thing I want to share with us tonight is our process, okay? I'll be sharing our process with us. And if you look on that screen right now, you'll see that our process involves module 3. This is where we are right now. Module 3, URLs and official email addresses. Over the last 3 weeks, we've looked at the pre-module 1 where you decided on your business sector. You also looked at module 1 activities where we learned what we had to do and how to activate the process. And then last week, which was module 2, we looked at business registrations. So as we talk right now, you should have gotten your business selected, registered, and ready to obtain your URLs and official email addresses. And of course, next week, which is module 4, we'll be tackling the TIN numbers and corporate bank accounts. Having said that, I want to also share something else, share some more information with you as we move on, okay? To obtain a uniform resource locator, which is your URL, that's the acronym for URL is the acronym for a uniform resource locator. So to obtain that, there's so many people that can give you that information, that can help you with that. There's so many platforms you can go to obtain that URL. But the first thing you do is you decide on a name, a URL that typifies your business, typifies what you do, that is unique to your business, and people can identify that URL because it closely resembles your business name. So you ensure that first-time visitors to your company website can identify your company from that URL you settled on. For instance, Microsoft's URL is Microsoft.com, all right? For my business, KD Leadership, my URL is kdleadership.com. And so there's so many people that can house this for you, but you have to, first of all, decide on which one that you want to. Now, the next thing is once you decide on a URL that you like, you need to go to the platforms, okay? There are several platforms that provide those services where you can purchase that from them for a very little fee, okay? You can go to www.godaddy.com. You can go to mediatemple.net, and there's just so many other providers out there. And all you have to do is just Google URL providers or URL processors, and you see tons of them out there. Just select one, anyone that's cost effective. There's so many of them, as I said, out there, and they basically do the same thing, okay? So it really doesn't matter who you go with. You want to be sure that whoever you go with is there for the long term. You don't want to hear a couple of years down the line that they're no longer in existence and you've lost your email addresses or URL or websites. Why? Because your provider is no longer there. So you want to go for some company out there that has a name and a track record. They've been there a while and there's evidence they're going to be there going forward, okay? There's so many other places that offer websites. You also have the WordPress.com. These ones also, they happen to be a partner with GoDaddy, but you can also get URLs there. Now, when you go to those platforms, the first thing you do is to search with the URL you have identified as something you want to use. You want to type it in there to see whether somebody else has already snagged it, okay? If your URL already exists in maybe somewhere in Europe, but you want to, you're so bent on using that URL, you might want to add something like US at the end of it, okay? If you're in the United States, or if you're in Kenya, you might want to add Kenya at the end of it, or if you're in Uganda, you want to add that. So what you're trying to do is just to be unique, to ensure that when people type in that name, your company pops up. You don't want proposed customers to miss you because guess why? They typed in your name and it took them to somebody else. Okay, so you want to be sure that that exists before you take that. Now, having said that also, what your URL does for you is that it allows you to now set up email addresses. Now, your email addresses, guess what, are official. That's what shows that you're not a small operator, okay? Like for instance, since my name is Kenny Ewulu, if I was working for Amazon, for instance, I could go ahead and type in Kenny Ewulu or Kewulu at Amazon.com, all right? Now, anybody who's looking at me will look at me seriously because I work for an establishment. It's not nice for you wanting to be a global business enterprise to have Kenny Ewulu at one of the generic names out there. Okay, there's so many generic names out there. You know the ones I'm talking about. Those are personal email addresses. You don't want to use that as your business. Or for instance, I have KD Leadership. I've set up the company. And then I go ahead and set up my email as kdleadership at blablamail.com. When you do that, it shows that you're a small operator. And people will be reluctant to reach out to you to do serious business with, because they say, if you can't afford to spend a couple of bucks just to set up a professional sounding email address, they're not going to trust you with their business and with their money. So you want to set all these things in place before we get into the financials. So I'll encourage us to do that, ensure that everything is set up so that there are no stories about how it can be done, why I missed, who I missed, or why I didn't get this business done. Now, having said that, you can also set up email addresses for your employees, for your associates, for those who contract with you. You can set all those things up. Most of these platforms have maybe the first 20 or the first 30 email addresses are free, and then it begins to charge you as they see that your company is growing large. So you want to do that. Now, another thing is to be consistent with the way you name your email addresses. It has to be a company policy. Some people will do first initial, last name. Like for me, my name is Kenny Ewulu. They will do K Ewulu, all in one word, at kdleadership.com. Others want to do first name, last name, and then the company name. Like for me right now, my email address is kenny.ewulu at kdleadership.com. But the most important thing is whatever style that you decide to use, make it consistent. Make it so that for everybody that works with you and for you, they use the same format. All right. Sometimes it's better for you for your IT administrator to set up that email and then send your people the link for them to set it up on their computers. That way, there are no mistakes about people setting up different names, going against company policy to set up names that do not reflect the general look of what your email addresses look like. So it's important for you to do that. Having said that, I am hoping that this week will be done with URLs and email addresses. So next week, we're going to be looking at tax identification numbers and bank accounts. And there I'll show you exactly how you go about in certain countries to ensure that people can pay you into your corporate account. You see, when people want to pay, they want to see that the place they're paying into is in name of your company. So we're going to deal with that, how to set up your website in module 5 and how to make sure that your website is an e-commerce website where you can accept payments and sell your goods and services there. But I'm beating the gun here. I don't want to go too far out. Let's just make sure that we get our uniform resource locators done this week. It's not going to cost you much to get it done. Sometimes it's a one-time annual fee. Sometimes it's a one-time for life fee, and sometimes some platforms will prefer to charge you on a monthly basis. Okay, $5, $10 a month. It all depends. So you go ahead and scout and compare prices and see what works for you. For me, the way I want to work is I pay yearly for things, so I don't have to bother about it, because sometimes cash flow can be a problem in business. Okay, you might make money this month and you think that's how it's going to be, and then you get some dry months. So I make a point to pay annual fees for most of my subscriptions. That way I don't have to worry about them, and put an alert. So by month 11, with 1 month to go, it sends me an email that this is due for renewal, and I can begin to make plans as to how to put it all together. So having said that, I want to say thank you for joining me tonight. I'm looking at my chat box. I don't see any questions. And so I'll also look at my, just a moment, I'll also look at my, let me just go to that immediately to see whether there are any questions on the chat box. There are no questions on the chat box. So having said that, I want to say thank you so much for joining me tonight. Let's meet again on Thursday. If you have any questions, please feel free to jump on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. If you're not able to do that, but you have questions beforehand, send us an email on support@kdeleadership.com. You do that, we'll respond to you by tomorrow. I wish you all the best this week. I'm hoping that by the time we meet again in a couple of days, you would have sorted out everything that you need to sort out concerning your URLs and your official email addresses. Having said that, I want to once again say thank you so much for joining me tonight, and I will see you next week. Have a good night.